If Denver's on your radar for a move in 2025, you are not going to want to miss this video. We're going to give you the ultimate relocation guide right now. Welcome back to the channel, guys. I'm Tim Cameron, your host for Everything Denver, Colorado, where we talk all things Denver real estate. If you're thinking of a move here, please hit me up at the information on the screen. And don't forget to download that free relocation guide I have linked in the description of this video, specifically for Denver. If you're thinking of Denver or maybe want the other areas outside of Denver, I also have relocation guides for those. So don't be afraid to email and we'll get you set up for success on your move to Denver. So this is going to be an ultimate relocation video where we're going to break down a lot of different aspects of moving to Denver, what to expect if you're moving here, preparations for the housing market and cost of living and all those things. So we're going to start off by specifically talking about the housing market. So the housing trends in Denver for 2025, we're slated to see probably 2 to 3% appreciation in the prices for single family homes here across the Denver metro area. Some neighborhoods might see a little bit more, some neighborhoods might see a little bit of a decline, but overall we're probably expecting that 2 to 3% appreciation. Now, median price for a home, single family in Denver is right around $585, and that's fairly common to see across most of the suburbs of Denver. For a mid-level, median home price for most of the suburbs, you're going to find right around $550,000 to $600,000. Some suburbs that will be the entry-level price for kind of a starter-level home. For other neighborhoods, that might be mid to top end of it. But if you plan for $650,000, you can get a pretty decent-sized home with a yard, private, and no attached walls from your neighbors. If you're looking for something a little bit smaller, townhomes or condos are really going to start at the low end at $200,000 to $250,000. And a lot of our townhomes are going to range in that $375,000 to $450,000 range for most townhomes. Now, it is a little bit neighborhood specific, but that's what you can kind of expect. Now, as far as competitiveness and how does this balance out to a lot of other major metropolitan areas, most homes are going under contract between 30 and 42 days. So we are seeing a little bit of a slowdown compared to the times of 2021 and right after COVID when homes were going on the market and being snatched up within 2 to 3 days. So generally you have a little bit of time. Those bidding wars and homes getting snatched up does happen time to time, but for the most part you do have generally a week to 2 weeks to have a good feel of the homes that are coming on the market before you make a decision. But that's why you also got to reach out. There's certain neighborhoods that are very, very popular, and homes in specific neighborhoods, if they're priced very aggressively, are going to go quick and they are going to go for over asking. Now let's move on to the cost of living. How does Colorado and Denver specifically compare to some of the other areas around the country? So nationwide, Colorado's cost of living is about 9% higher than the national average. Now, most of this is specifically tied to housing. Our housing is actually 28% higher than most areas around the country, and that's the reason the cost of living is significantly higher. When you compare it to a lot of other things, the cost of groceries and cost of transportation and gas and everything like that, we're pretty much in line with the rest of the country. The biggest one that is a big pill to swallow is the housing. So now, average salaries in the Denver metro area for a single earner are right around $85,000. So we do have that going for us, that our median income is a little bit higher than the national average of like $66,000. So yes, living in a more expensive area, you can expect to make more. It's just a matter of balancing out the cost versus the increase in income that you might make when you're here. Now, when you compare the cost of living to a few other things such as utilities, our utilities are a little bit lower than the national average. Also, gasoline is a little bit cheaper than the national average in most areas. Right now, we're sitting at about $2.79 a gallon, and I know that sets people off in California because they haven't seen a 2 or even a 3 in the starting price of gas in their state in a long time. So that is a benefit of living here: cheaper gas prices and lower utility costs, since we do have some energy independence here in the state. All right, now let's talk about employment opportunities. Now, the largest employer in the state right now is the federal government. So a lot of people that do move here are relocating for work for maybe a federal job, whether that's contract work or with the space program and Lockheed Martin, who's a big employer here. But we also have a lot of jobs across many different sectors. So Colorado has a pretty diverse economy in that respect, which is nice because it does kind of insulate from, recession or depression type swings in the market. So if the tech industry is taking a hit and going down in value, and you see the NASDAQ dropping, some of that will affect some of the marketplace in Colorado, but not as much as if, we were a Silicon Valley specifically. We're also not totally tied to like an oil based economy where, if energy prices take a significant drop or hit, it doesn't cripple the economy here. So we have a wide variety, a lot of tech jobs. We have a lot of jobs in the energy industry. We also have a lot of jobs for the federal government and in the healthcare industry. So it's kind of a wide variety. I almost liken it to like the S&P 500 of economies. We got a little bit of almost every single sector. Now, one thing we don't have a lot of is manufacturing jobs. There are some, but I would say we're probably more tech, government, finance, and healthcare based as far as our biggest employers across the metro area. All right, our next point that we're going to talk about is transportation, public transportation and private, and what is going to be best for you when you move here. If you're moving from a very, very urban area like maybe downtown Chicago, New York City, Boston, where you have a very robust and pretty well flowing public transportation system with subways, trains, and buses, you're probably going to be a little disappointed when you come here. Colorado is very car dependent, and the public transportation system is meh at best. It gets the job done, but there's nothing special about it. An average cost for a monthly RTD pass, if you're going to be taking public transportation across the metro area, it's right around $80 to $90 per month. There's some discounts if you're a student or things like that, but for the most part, you can probably budget $100 for a public transportation pass, and that's going to get you most areas within the interior of Denver. And I will say the closer you are to like the downtown corridor and the parts of Denver that are more urbanized, the more reliable, better the public transportation is going to be. When you get further on the outskirts into some of the suburbs, you do have light rail trains that run into some of these communities like Littleton and Centennial and Aurora, Lakewood, and even some up to like the northwest corners like Boulder, Lafayette. Those could be kind of sporadic, not running on time, and just not the best option to get around. So I would say Colorado overall, very car dependent. I would say that you're probably going to want to have at least one vehicle when you move here to get around to make commuting a lot easier. There's no public transportation in places like Castle Rock, Parker, Elizabeth, or some of the outskirts of the Denver metro area. Now, tying into transportation, let's talk about commute times and traffic volume and congestion overall. Now, no doubt Denver has grown a lot over the last few years, and increases in population have led to more congestion, especially on I-25 in the interior of Denver and the I-70 corridor that kind of runs through Denver. So you have these two big major national interstates that run and kind of intersect right almost in the middle of Denver. Just north of that downtown area where you see all the buildings is right where that interchange is. So you do have a lot of traffic and congestion through there. Not only for all the locals coming through, but those are major routes for trucking and transportation needs across the country. So people importing things from places like Nebraska and Kansas will be taking I-70 and then getting on maybe I-25 and headed south to avoid some of the mountain driving, and that does lead to a lot of congestion within the city. So depending on where you are, you're probably usually, if you're in that interior of Denver, the C470 bubble that I call it, most things are probably going to be 30 minutes away if you're on the outskirts of that C470 bubble to get into Denver, which is not terrible. I've been in other cities where it takes 45 minutes minimum to get almost anywhere in the city. You have to take the good with the bad. If it's a very popular place and a lot of people live there because it is a good place to live, you may have to put up with a little bit more congestion. Now, ways around that, there are some of the side streets that can be good avenues to use when commuting in and out of Denver to avoid the I-25 and I-70 corridor. One of those on the south end would be Santa Fe or Highway 85. It still gets congested, but if there's an accident on I-25, it's a nice way to get around that. Also, if you're not opposed to driving on a tollway, you can go on the E470 corridor to get to the airport and things on the east end of Denver. Now they do charge, toll to drive on this road, and depending on which exit you get off will determine how much you end up paying in tolls. But I will say it is worth it to get the E470 Express Toll Pass. Sign up for that. It gets you a little bit of a discount on tolls, and you just kind of fund the account, and as you drive on it, it slowly drains it down to the point where you have to refill the account. So that makes it a little bit more convenient, and like I said, you do get the discount signing up for that to get a reduced rate on the tolls. All right, now let's break down some neighborhood profiles. Now, if you're looking for historic charm and you want to be within the city of Denver, really close to everything, some of the more historic neighborhoods right around Denver are going to fit that vibe and that lifestyle very well. Neighborhoods like Wash Park and even Cherry Creek, that's a little bit more upscale but does have, you know, a lot of historic charm with it, is a good option for you. If you want the ultimate urban living, you want to be downtown, close to all the action, not have to have a car, you want to walk to everything, then Lodo is probably going to be the best option for that. Lodo, Rhino, the interior parts of Denver, where you're going to have the best access to public transportation, but you're also going to have walking distance to like live theater, you know, sporting events, bars, restaurants, even your grocery stores down there. Those are going to be the places where you have the best walkability. Now, if you want more suburban living and you want to be outside kind of that interior of Denver and not have to put up with, you know, all the congestion and some of the homeless problems that are happening in that particular pocket of the metro area, then moving out to one of the suburbs is going to be a great option for you. Places like Littleton, even the west side of Lakewood, Thornton on the north end where you're a little bit further away from, you know, all the hustle and bustle of Denver, is a nice quiet suburban area. And then on the south end, towns like Parker and Castle Rock are great family oriented communities that are not going to have some of the same, you know, drama challenges, and they're a little bit safer, to be honest. When you pull up the crime statistics, generally the interior of Denver sees some of the highest crime rates, and then as you move a little bit further out from there into the less populated areas, obviously you get a little bit lower crime rates. So some of my top neighborhoods for like young professionals if they want to live within Denver area are the Highlands and Berkeley. And then if you want to live in Denver but have more of a family friendly atmosphere, something that's a little bit more suburban in nature without, you know, being all the way into the suburbs like Littleton or Centennial, I'd recommend the neighborhoods of like Wash Park, South Park Hill, and North Park Hill. Those are some of the most highly rated among families for that interior of Denver area. Now, I do get people asking questions about, hey, where's the new construction? Where are newer homes and newer developments? I want to get into something that's brand new. I want to get into something that is kind of on the entry level of getting the appreciation for the neighborhood. And if you want that, you do have to go pretty far out to the outskirts of the Denver metro. Places like Castle Rock and Parker are having a lot of new construction happening, and places on the north end like Thornton, Erie, Dacono, on that north end of I-25 north of Denver are having a lot of growth as well. Then if you move out to the east and southeast Aurora, there's a lot of new development happening there. And then there's not as much to the west of Denver. There are some small pockets of Lakewood and Arvada and even Morrison that do see some new construction happening, but the land is just not as easily developed over there. So you will be paying higher home prices and maybe having smaller lots. I've noticed that a lot of places on that west end of town, they're trying to sandwich a lot of homes into a smaller area because mountain land is much harder to develop. And so you are paying a premium for being on that west side and being closer to the mountains and all the outdoor activities that are in that area. All right, next let's talk about education. And if you're moving here with your family and you want to have, you know, access to good schools, where are the best schools? Well, usually the top 3 rated school districts in the Denver metro area are Cherry Creek schools. That's kind of on the east end of Denver in the Aurora area, actually. So Aurora and Centennial go to the Cherry Creek School District. Douglas County Schools is also one that's always very highly rated. That's on the south end of Denver, so that is going to encompass places like Highlands Ranch, Castle Pines, Parker, Castle Rock. Very big county, but generally has schools that are rated in the top 3 across the state. And then Littleton Public Schools, and this is fairly specific to like the Littleton and Centennial area. A little bit smaller of a school district than Cherry Creek or Douglas County, but it always is very highly rated as well. Now, a great place that I have actually helped clients, if they're looking to do a little bit more research into the school districts, is niche.com, NICHE.com, and that's a great resource not only to pair with my videos where you're getting to see some of these neighborhoods and different things and some of the profiles of them, but you can also research the schools, get a little bit more information on them, read some personal reviews of parents who have sent their kids there, and they also give personalized recommendations or reviews of the neighborhoods as far as crime rankings and safety statistics go. Something that I have to hesitate to say too much about because I'm not allowed to steer you to any one neighborhood or the other. But if you go to these websites or some of the crime reporting websites, you can find good information about these neighborhoods, so you find the perfect place for your family. Now, as far as higher education goes, we do have several options across the metro. Most notably, we're kind of known for CU Boulder, and that's outside Denver to the west end in the Flatirons, where Coach Prime is, of course, and it's really grown in popularity since the football program has been revitalized. We also have CSU, which is a little bit more of an agriculturally based school in Fort Collins, and that's going to be about an hour and a half north of Denver. And then you do have local opportunities as well. So Denver University is really well known for its law program and very popular, exclusive, hard to get into school. Also a great hockey program for college athletes. And then you do have a few other options, locally. Metro is kind of on the inside of Denver, and you do have some community colleges as well. So community college is a great option for people to knock out some of those early credits, the credits that don't matter quite as much, that you do have to have an accredited school to go to, but you can save a lot of money if you do your first year or two in one of these community colleges. You can save a ton of money. Let's talk about our climate and our weather here. So Colorado is a very dry state, not a whole lot of moisture happening. We're more of a desert state, even though we have these mountains and I'm surrounded by beautiful trees in this park today. It is very dry here, and especially through the summer, we have wildfire warnings, and we sadly always have a few handful of fires in the high country. So if you're thinking of a move to one of the mountain towns like Evergreen, Morrison, Conifer, or even further into the mountains like a Silverthorne or Dillon, around one of the ski resorts, be prepared for higher insurance costs and limited insurance options. Because of our dry climate and the wildfire risk up there, a lot of these insurance companies have either pulled out of providing insurance in these areas, or the rates have skyrocketed over the last few years. Now, some things you can do to mitigate that is, making sure your home is free from any trees that are, liable to set the house on fire. Were there a forest fire, God forbid, in your neighborhood, but it's something to definitely be prepared for. So it has been said that Colorado gets 300 days of sunshine, and that's true. We have more clear and sunny days than I think San Diego last I checked, which is a little bit crazy. Now, our average temperature kind of runs around 55 degrees, but that includes the summer when it's 90 and 95, through July and August, and also includes the months like February where we're sitting in just below freezing in the 20s and 30s for our daily high temperature. Now, we don't get the real deep freezes that you see across the country on some of the northern states like Minnesota and North Dakota and even Michigan and the Northeast. We do have our snaps of cold where it is single digits for a few days, but those are fairly rare and don't come around so often. Like right now, it is a beautiful sunny day, 55 degrees. It's comfortable to be in a t-shirt or a sweater like I am. And this is going to be a lot of the spring and fall days throughout the year. So really nice climate here. It is very dry, so especially in the winter, be prepared to be drinking more water, have lotion for your cracked and dry hands, and chapstick for those lips. Let's move on to outdoor recreation and outdoor activities to experience here in Colorado. So we're kind of well known for having the mountains just to the west of Denver, which encompasses your skiing and your snowboarding and all of the things that are associated with mountain sports. But we have a ton of things even locally to do, whether that's hiking and mountain biking and running, trails all throughout the metro area, and especially if you move into one of the suburbs that's a little bit further out on the south end, like Parker or Castle Rock or Littleton, you're gonna find trails like right out your front door, right in your neighborhood. So it's great to experience some of the outdoor living opportunities that Colorado has to offer. Like I said, you have all this beautiful weather, and so you get to experience a lot of that. Now, some favorite day trips of people that are kind of, in the Denver metro area to experience, obviously going up to the mountains is always a popular one. If you can avoid doing it on the weekend, you're gonna have a much better experience because you won't have to fight all the traffic that's going up on I-70, especially during those times of the winter when people are skiing and snowboarding, or in the fall when all the leaves are changing. It's a very, very popular area to go and experience all the beautiful fall changing colors. Some areas I definitely recommend going to see if you are looking for a mountain experience. Pikes Peak down on the south end, this is actually Colorado Springs, is one of the most picturesque, beautiful mountains. Go and have an overview of the entire state of Colorado, and you can drive all the way to the top or take a railroad, or you can take a train car all the way to the top. So that is definitely easier than hiking the entire thing. I hiked it once, 14 miles from the base of it to the very top, when you account for all the switchbacks and trails up those 14,000 feet. And man, it was challenging, and I was sore for several days, and I didn't have a plan to get down the mountain, so I ended up hitchhiking with some other people that did drive up to the top to get me back to the bottom. So that's a beautiful place to experience. One that's a little bit closer to the Denver area is Mount Evans. So that's right up I-25, stop in Idaho Springs, which is your mountain town, and then you pull off from there and you can drive all the way to the top of Mount Evans. And again, get beautiful views of the entire Denver metro area and beyond. Now, one thing we don't have a lot of here is bodies of water. So if you're into water sports, water skiing, wakeboarding, and all things water sports, there's not a whole lot of options for that. We do have Chatfield Reservoir and Cherry Creek Reservoir in the metro area, but beyond that, you kind of have to travel a little bit further to experience water sports, because the bodies of water we do have, there's a lot of regulations around them. A lot of them do not allow for motorized watercraft, so it's not going to be like Florida where you can take your boat out every weekend and enjoy it and have, the whole lake to yourself. Our reservoirs do get pretty full and pretty crowded with a lot of people trying to get into those smaller spaces. Okay, let's talk about the cultural scene here in Denver Metro. So interior of Denver, you're gonna have probably your most diverse and entertainment options available to you. That's downtown corridor. There are little pockets here and there across the metro area of other ones, but downtown Denver is gonna have all your sporting events where Broncos, Nuggets, Avalanche play. It's going to have your live local theater with the Denver Performing Arts Center. It has the Denver Convention Center. That's kind of a hot spot for a lot of places coming into town, and expos, whatever you're into, it probably has shown up at the Denver Event Center or the Denver Convention Center. And we also have, the Western Stock shows up in the heart of Denver in January. So if you're into ranches and cattle, that's gonna be a place to experience as well. Moving out from that, more if you get into the suburban areas, obviously you're going to have more suburban amenities. Movie theaters and bowling alleys and all those smaller, more suburban type things to do are going to be further out from Denver. So if you want more of a culturally diverse experience, I'd say downtown Denver is probably going to be your best bet on experiencing that. Now, certain pockets do have more of an art tilt to it, like the town of Parker has a little bit more of an art twist to it for being one of the suburbs, live local theater there and art shows and wine tastings and things like that. But for the most part, the further you get out into the suburban areas, the more suburban it's going to feel overall, including your entertainment options. Now, as far as dining and nightlife, I'm gonna be honest, I'm a dad, I don't go out at night. I don't really have a ton to say about nightlife experiences, other than if you want it, it's gonna be in the downtown area, it's gonna be in Aurora, it's gonna be in places like the Denver Tech Center or Centennial. I'm a suburban dude, so that stuff's not really important to me. Yes, if you want Michelin rated restaurants, that's gonna be Denver and the interior of Denver. If you're good with your regular chain restaurants and knowing what to expect when you go into one of these places, but still have a few unique options, suburbs are just fine for that. I live in Castle Rock and we have a lot of suburban amenities and things like that around, but we do have a couple of local options too that make it, so you're not, only have Applebee's or Chili's that you're eating at. You do have a couple of great local options and local restaurants to choose from. I had mentioned our healthcare system here and the healthcare system offering a lot of jobs to a lot of people that end up moving here. So we do have a lot of hospitals across the metro area that are very highly rated. One of the best for children's and pediatric hospital is Children's Hospital in Aurora. The Anschutz campus out there, where they're doing a lot of research and cures for childhood cancer, is there. So you definitely have a ton of healthcare options if you're working there, or if you just want quick access to them. There are people who come from around the country to get care at Children's Hospital. So I will say Colorado, pretty healthy state, and our healthcare system is pretty good here compared to a lot of places around the country. Now we'll touch briefly on like safety rankings of neighborhoods and suburbs. You guys have probably seen, if you've watched any news about the Denver area, some of the challenges that the interior of Denver has had, as well as the town of Aurora and some of the challenges that they have experienced over the last several months. Now I will say, living in the Colorado metro area all my life, I have noticed that we have had increases in crime over the last 30 years. Of course, some of that is just due to the population increases. If more people choose to live in an area, yes, there's going to be higher crime rates and higher propensity for crimes to happen. Now, a great place to look up some of these statistics and kind of do the research on your own is niche.com, and there's also crimereports.com, which can give you insights into specific neighborhoods and what kind of crimes are happening there. Sadly, Colorado does lead the nation usually in auto thefts that happen. Knock on wood, have not had that happen. You got to be careful no matter what neighborhood that you're in, to lock up your valuables, keep things locked away, and really just not be careless with some of your belongings. You want to keep them safe, and most crimes in Colorado are still crimes of opportunity. So if you lock up your things and take some precautions on the front end, you can greatly reduce the risk that happens to you. All right, now if you're thinking of moving here and opening up a local business, or you want to start a business here, is Colorado a business-friendly state? I'd say yes, with a caveat that some local ordinances are more friendly to businesses than others. Denver has put a lot of restrictions on a lot of business owners, and it is more challenging getting the permits and getting approved and getting all of these things to be in compliance with a lot of the local regulations. So I have heard of quite a few business owners in Denver moving out from there and wanting to be in more subdivision areas where the restrictions are not as stringent and they don't have to go through as much red tape to start their business or operate their business. Now, a big thing in Colorado, especially when it first became legal here, is opening up a cannabis dispensary or distribution center. And I'd say kind of the fad of that and the peak of everyone wanting to do that here is kind of worn off. So you still, especially in the interior of Denver and some of the suburban areas like Inglewood and Aurora, they do have a lot of dispensaries and things. It is fairly common to see those as you're driving down the street, but there are still a lot of areas of the metro area that do not allow that. They don't want it in their communities. So there are restrictions on opening those types of businesses in certain municipalities and neighborhoods. So if that is something that you're into, you're going to have to do a lot of research. Don't just move out here and think you can put it anywhere because it's recreationally legal here. You do have to follow a lot of local ordinances and go through a lot of red tape to start one of those type of businesses. But overall, Colorado, very business friendly and a great place to start a business and raise a family. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this kind of breakdown, ultimate guide to relocating to Denver. You got a lot of information out there, but I'm sure there are tons of questions still out there for me to answer. So hit me up at the information. Call, text, or email. I love helping people with their relocations around the state. Don't forget to download that free relocation guide. And if Denver's not quite the right place for you, we got tons of different neighborhoods, tons of different suburban areas that are going to be just right for you. So like, subscribe, and we'll see you on the next video.